Stop her. The shout echoed across the departure terminal, just as Hannah handed her boarding pass to the airline attendant. Her heart skipped a beat. The attendant froze. The scanner beeped. And suddenly every head turned toward the entrance of the airport. A group of men in black suits were marching through the terminal. Fast. Focused. Dangerous. Passengers moved out of their way instinctively. Even airport security hesitated. At the center of the group walked a man whose presence seemed to drain the air from the room. Kang Tae-sung. The man Hannah had spent months trying to avoid. The man she blamed for destroying her life. The man she never wanted to see again. Yet here he was. And he was staring directly at her. No. Hannah whispered. Her hand immediately moved to her stomach. 5 months pregnant. 5 months carrying the child of the man she loved. The child of a man who had disappeared without a trace. The child of Kang Tae-sung's son. The airline attendant glanced nervously between them. Ma'am. Please. Hannah swallowed hard. Let me board. But before the attendant could answer, Kang Tae-sung's bodyguards had already reached the gate. One stepped forward. Miss Hannah. No. She took a step backward. No. Please come with us. I'm not going anywhere with you. The bodyguard sighed. Miss Hannah. I said no. The firmness in her voice surprised even her. For months she had been scared. Scared of what happened. Scared of what she didn't know. Scared of what might happen next. But not anymore. Today she was leaving Korea. Today she was finally going home. Nobody was stopping her. Not after everything she had survived. Kang Tae-sung finally reached the gate. The terminal became silent. The older man looked exhausted. His usually perfect appearance seemed worn. His eyes carried a heaviness she had never noticed before. But Hannah didn't care. Not anymore. You have some nerve showing up here. The words came out sharper than she intended. The old man stared at her. Then at her stomach. Then back at her. His expression tightened. You can't leave. Hannah laughed bitterly. There it is. The bodyguards exchanged uncomfortable glances. There it is, she repeated. The order. Nobody spoke. That's all you people know how to do. Her eyes began to water. You order. Silence. You threaten. Still silence. You take. Kang Tae-sung looked away briefly, as if he couldn't bear her gaze. That only made her angrier. Look at me. His eyes returned to hers. Look at me and tell me why. The older man remained silent. Hannah shook her head. That's what I thought. She turned toward the boarding gate. The attendant looked trapped, completely unsure what to do. Hannah offered a sad smile. It's okay. Then she took another step. A bodyguard immediately blocked her path. Her patience snapped. You have got to be kidding me. Nobody moved. Nobody apologized. The old anger returned. The anger she had carried for months. The anger she buried every night before crying herself to sleep. Do you know what your son promised me? The question hit harder than she expected. Kang Tae-sung visibly stiffened. Hannah continued. He promised we'd be a family. The terminal was so quiet that even distant announcements seemed muted. He promised he'd never leave me. Tears filled her eyes. And then one day he disappeared. Nobody interrupted. Nobody defended him. He stopped calling. Her voice cracked. He stopped texting. She pointed at her stomach. And I found out I was pregnant. The pain in her voice made several nearby passengers lower their eyes. Even some of the bodyguards looked uncomfortable. Hannah laughed through her tears. Do you know how many nights I waited for him? No answer. Do you know how many times I called his number? Nothing. Do you know how many lies I told myself? Kang Tae-sung slowly closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked less like a feared mafia boss, and more like an exhausted father carrying something he couldn't escape. But Hannah refused to feel sorry for him. Not after what happened. Not after the last 6 months. Where is he? The question hung between them. Kang Tae-sung opened his eyes. Hannah stared at him. Waiting. Demanding. Begging. Where is Minjun? The older man's jaw tightened. His silence terrified her. Because deep down she already knew. People don't disappear for 6 months. People don't vanish without reason. People don't leave behind the woman they love and an unborn child. Not unless something terrible happened. No. She shook her head before he could speak. No. Her voice trembled. Don't say it. The old man swallowed. Hannah. No. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. Don't say it. For several seconds nobody moved. Then he spoke. And the world stopped. My son is gone. Hannah's knees nearly gave out. Gone. Not dead. Not alive. Gone. A word that somehow hurt even more. Because it offered no certainty. Only pain. Only questions. Only endless possibilities. Her breathing became uneven. What does that mean? The old man's eyes filled with something she had never seen before. Regret. Real regret. I failed him. The answer confused her. What? I failed my son. The terminal remained silent. Nobody dared interrupt. Hannah stared at him, trying to understand, trying to make sense of the words. Then something unexpected happened. Kang Tae-sung bowed his head. Not slightly. Not politely. Completely. The feared mafia boss lowered his head before her. The entire terminal gasped. Even his own bodyguards looked stunned. Hannah. His voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. The apology hit harder than any threat could have, because it felt genuine. And that terrified her. A powerful man could fake anger. A powerful man could fake kindness. But this looked real. And she didn't know what to do with it. Before she could respond, one of the bodyguards suddenly pressed a finger to his earpiece. His face changed instantly. Fear flashed across his eyes. Real fear. The kind trained men rarely showed. Chairman. Kang Tae-sung looked up. What is it? The bodyguard swallowed, then leaned forward and whispered something into his ear. The color drained from the old man's face. For the first time since arriving, he looked genuinely alarmed. What? The bodyguard nodded. It's confirmed. Confirmed? Hannah frowned. Confirmed what? The old man's eyes immediately moved to her stomach. His expression turned pale, almost horrified. Then he grabbed her wrist. Not aggressively, desperately. Hannah. What are you doing? You need to come with me. She pulled away. No. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. His voice rose. No, you don't. The sudden urgency shocked everyone. Kang Tae-sung looked toward the airport entrance. Then back at Hannah. Then toward the entrance again. As if expecting something. Or someone. And whatever he was expecting clearly terrified him. Hannah, listen to me carefully. She had never heard fear in his voice before. Not once. But now it was unmistakable. If you get on that plane... He paused. His eyes fixed on her stomach. Then he delivered the sentence that made her blood run cold. You and that baby won't make it out of Korea alive. You and that baby won't make it out of Korea alive. For a moment, Hannah simply stared at him. Then she laughed. A short, bitter laugh. The kind that came from someone who had already been hurt too many times. Is that supposed to scare me? Kang Tae-sung didn't answer. That alone made her uneasy. Because powerful men like him were used to controlling situations. Used to controlling people. Yet right now, he didn't look like a man trying to intimidate her. He looked like a man trying to prevent a disaster. And Hannah hated that thought. She hated the tiny voice in her head telling her something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Move. She looked at the bodyguard blocking the gate. The man didn't move. Move. Still nothing. Her frustration exploded. I am tired of this. The terminal echoed with her voice. Several passengers turned to stare. Some were openly recording now. Others whispered among themselves. Hannah didn't care. For 6 months she had been confused. For 6 months she had lived inside a nightmare. Today was supposed to be the end of that nightmare. Today she was supposed to leave. To start over. To stop wondering why Min-jun disappeared. To stop crying herself to sleep. To stop checking her phone every morning hoping to see his name. Yet here she was. Trapped again. By his father. By his secrets. By a family she never wanted to be connected to. You owe me answers. Kang Tae-sung nodded slowly. I know. No. Her voice trembled. You don't. Silence. You have no idea what you've done to me. The old man lowered his gaze. That surprised her. A man like him wasn't supposed to look ashamed. Yet he did. And somehow that scared her more than his threats ever could. Then the bodyguard's earpiece crackled again. The man immediately stiffened. Another guard rushed toward them. His breathing was uneven. Chairman. What now? The bodyguard glanced nervously at Hannah. Then back at his boss. They've entered the airport. Every muscle in Kang Tae-sung's body tightened. How many? At least 30. The terminal suddenly felt smaller. Much smaller. Hannah looked around. Passengers continued moving through the airport. Some buying food. Some checking their flights. Most completely unaware of whatever danger was approaching. What are you talking about? Nobody answered her. Instead, Kong Tae-sung looked toward the main entrance. His eyes darkened. Then he spoke quietly. We're out of time. Hannah frowned. What does that mean? The old man looked directly into her eyes. They found you. A chill ran down her spine. Who found me? His silence was immediate. And that silence terrified her. Because she was beginning to notice a pattern. Every important question led to silence. Every truth seemed hidden behind another secret. Every answer created 10 more questions. I'm not doing this anymore. She folded her arms. No more mysteries. Hannah. No. She shook her head. No more. The old man stared at her for several seconds. Then he sighed heavily, as though making a decision. A difficult one. The child. Her heart skipped. What about the child? His eyes shifted briefly toward her stomach, then back to her face. The child is the reason. Confusion flooded her mind. What reason? Before he could answer, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the terminal. People screamed. Several heads turned. Airport security suddenly began running. Panic spread instantly. Passengers abandoned luggage. Children started crying. And within seconds, chaos erupted. Hannah's pulse skyrocketed. What was that? A bodyguard pulled back his jacket slightly. For the first time, she noticed the weapon beneath it. The sight made her stomach twist. Real danger. Not stories. Not rumors. Real danger. Another crash echoed through the airport. Closer this time. Much closer. Then she heard shouting. Dozens of voices. Getting louder. Getting nearer. The old man's face hardened. Take her. 2 bodyguards immediately moved toward Hannah. She stepped backward. Don't touch me. Miss Hannah, please. No. One of the guards looked genuinely nervous. Please. The fear in his voice caught her attention. These men weren't afraid of her. They were afraid for her. And that realization made her heart race even faster. A third crash shook the terminal. Then someone screamed. A long, terrified scream. The sound sent chills through everyone nearby. What is happening? Still no answers. Only tension. Only fear. Only urgency. Then the crowd suddenly split apart. People began running. Fast. Desperate. Terrified. A mother nearly dropped her suitcase while pulling her son along. A businessman abandoned his luggage entirely. Airport workers rushed behind security barriers. The panic spread like wildfire. And then Hannah saw why. A group of men had entered the terminal. Not police. Not security. Men. Well-dressed. Organized. Dangerous. There were at least 20 of them. Maybe more. Their eyes scanned the crowd carefully. Searching. Looking. Hunting. And when one of them pointed in Hannah's direction, her blood ran cold. They weren't looking for random passengers. They were looking for her. Chairman. The bodyguard's voice trembled. They found us. Kong Tae-sung cursed under his breath. The first genuine anger Hannah had seen from him all day. Move. His order was immediate. Now. The bodyguards formed a protective circle around her. She resisted instinctively. What is going on? No answer. They started moving quickly through the terminal. Away from the gate. Away from the windows. Away from the crowd. Hannah struggled to keep up. Somebody tell me what's happening. Nobody spoke. The men moved faster. Then one of the strangers spotted them. His eyes widened. There she is. The shout echoed through the terminal. Everything exploded into motion. The group immediately began pushing through the crowd. Passengers screamed and scattered. Airport security attempted to intervene. The strangers ignored them completely. They had one objective. One target. Hannah. Fear gripped her chest. This wasn't intimidation. This wasn't a scare tactic. Those men genuinely wanted her. And judging from the panic on Kong Tae-sung's face, that was very bad news. Run. The command came from one of the bodyguards. Hannah didn't argue. Not this time. She ran. The group rushed through a side corridor. Footsteps thundered behind them. The pursuers weren't slowing down. If anything, they were getting closer. Hannah's lungs burned. Her pregnancy made running harder. Every step felt heavier than the last. But fear kept her moving. Fear and confusion. Questions raced through her mind. Who were these people? Why were they after her? What did they want with her baby? The last question terrified her most. Because it implied something she couldn't understand. Something impossible. Her child wasn't even born yet. How could an unborn baby attract this much attention? None of it made sense. Then they reached a secured hallway. One of the guards swiped a keycard. The door opened instantly. Everyone rushed inside. The door slammed shut. Locks engaged. For a brief moment, silence returned. Hannah bent over slightly, trying to catch her breath. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The room was small, windowless, secure, a temporary refuge, but not a solution. She looked at Kang Tae-sung. His expression remained grim. "You owe me an explanation." The old man nodded. "I know." "No." Her voice rose. "You keep saying that." Silence. "I deserve the truth." The bodyguards exchanged nervous looks. Nobody interrupted, because they knew she was right. The old man took a slow breath. Then another, as if preparing himself. Finally, he looked directly at her. "The people chasing you aren't after you." Hannah frowned. "What?" "They're after the baby." The word sent a chill through her body. "No. It's true." "No." Her voice cracked. "This is insane." The old man looked exhausted. "I wish it was." Hannah stared at him, fear growing stronger by the second. Then she asked the question that had been haunting her since the airport confrontation. "Why?" Nobody spoke. The room became silent. Even the bodyguard seemed nervous. Then Kang Tae-sung finally answered. "The baby belongs to a bloodline that some people thought disappeared forever." Hannah's heart skipped a beat. "What bloodline?" The old man opened his mouth. But before he could answer, one of the bodyguards suddenly turned pale. His eyes locked onto a monitor mounted on the wall. "Chairman." Everyone looked. The security camera feed showed the corridor outside. And Hannah's blood instantly froze. The locked door wasn't protecting them anymore, because the men hunting her were already standing on the other side. And one of them was smiling directly at the camera. Nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. The room fell into complete silence as everyone stared at the security monitor. The man outside the door continued smiling. Not a normal smile. Not the smile of someone who had finally found what he was looking for. It was the smile of someone who already knew he had one. Hannah felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "Who is he?" No one answered immediately. The bodyguards exchanged nervous glances. Even Kang Tae-sung's face darkened. That alone was enough to terrify her. If a man like Kang Tae-sung was worried, then whoever stood outside that door was not someone ordinary. The smiling man suddenly raised his hand. Then he waved at the camera. Several bodyguards cursed under their breath. "He knows we're watching." "Of course he knows," another guard replied. "He wants us to watch." Hannah looked from one face to another. "What is happening?" Again, silence. The old man finally stepped closer to the monitor. His eyes narrowed. "I thought he was dead." The room instantly became tense. Hannah frowned. "What?" Nobody answered. The smiling man slowly reached into his pocket. Several guards immediately grabbed their weapons. The tension became unbearable. Then the stranger pulled out a phone. A few seconds later, one of the bodyguards' phones began ringing. Everyone froze. The guard looked terrified. "Chairman." "Answer it." The man hesitated. "Answer it." The bodyguard finally pressed the speaker button. A calm voice filled the room. "Good afternoon." Nobody spoke. The voice chuckled. "Come now. That's rude." Kang Tae-sung stepped forward. "What do you want?" The voice laughed. "What I've always wanted." The old man's expression hardened. "You should have stayed buried." Likewise. The room became silent again. Hannah felt completely lost. She didn't know this man. She didn't understand these people. Yet somehow her life had become connected to all of them. The voice continued. "Give me the girl." "No. Then we're going to have a problem." "We already do." The stranger laughed again. Then his tone changed. Completely. The amusement vanished, replaced by something colder. Something dangerous. "You know what happens if I don't get what I came for." The old man's jaw tightened. "Try me." Several seconds passed. Then the call disconnected. The room remained silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally Hannah broke the silence. "Who is he?" Kang Tae-sung looked away. That immediately irritated her. "No." She stepped forward. "No more secrets." The old man slowly nodded. Perhaps he finally realized he couldn't keep hiding things. Not anymore. His name is Park Sung-ho. The name meant nothing to Hannah, but judging from the reactions around her, it clearly meant something to everyone else. "He used to work for me." Hannah blinked. "What?" The old man nodded. He was one of my most trusted men. Several bodyguards lowered their heads. The shame was obvious. Then Kang Tae-sung continued. Years ago, I treated him like family. And now? The old man's eyes darkened. Now he wants to destroy everything I built. A loud metallic sound suddenly echoed from outside the door. Everyone jumped. One of the guards immediately checked the monitor. His face turned pale. They're bringing equipment. What kind? The guard swallowed. Cutting equipment. The room became tense instantly. They're trying to get through. Fear gripped Hannah's chest. The locked room suddenly felt much smaller. Much less secure. She looked at Kang Tae-sung. What does any of this have to do with me? The old man hesitated. Then he looked at her stomach. The gesture didn't go unnoticed. Nothing went unnoticed anymore. Not after everything she had seen today. What does it have to do with my baby? Again that hesitation. Again that silence. Again those secrets. Her patience snapped. I'm tired of this. The room echoed with her voice. I'm tired of being treated like I don't deserve answers. Nobody interrupted. Nobody argued. Because they knew she was right. Tears filled her eyes. My entire life has fallen apart. Her voice cracked. The man I loved disappeared. Pain flashed across her face. I found out I was pregnant alone. Silence. I spent months wondering if he abandoned me. The room remained still. And now armed men are chasing me through an airport. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. Tell me the truth. The old man stared at her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he finally sighed. A deep, tired sigh. The sigh of a man who had been carrying something for too long. You remind me of him. Hannah frowned. What? My son. The words caught her off guard. Kang Tae-sung looked away briefly, as if remembering something painful. He was stubborn too. Despite everything, Hannah felt her chest tighten. Hearing Min-jun mention still hurt. Still hurt more than she wanted to admit. The old man continued. When he was a child, he never stopped asking questions. A faint smile appeared. Gone almost immediately. He hated secrets. Hannah swallowed. That sounded exactly like him. Then the smile disappeared completely. And that's why we fought. The room became silent again. The old man's expression grew heavy. We fought constantly. For the first time, Hannah saw something beyond power and authority. She saw regret. Real regret. The kind that keeps people awake at night. I thought I was protecting him. His voice became quieter. But all I did was push him away. The confession hung in the room. Hannah didn't know what to say. Part of her still blamed this man for everything. Another part was beginning to see a father carrying enormous guilt. Then another metallic sound echoed from outside. Louder this time. Closer. The attackers were making progress. One of the bodyguards cursed. They'll be through soon. Fear returned instantly. The emotional moment vanished. Reality came rushing back. Hannah looked toward the door. Then toward the monitor. The smiling man was still there. Watching. Waiting. Patient. Like a predator. Then something unexpected happened. A phone vibrated. Everyone froze. The sound had come from Hannah's pocket. Slowly, she reached for it. Her heart began pounding. Unknown number. No caller ID. The room watched silently. Don't answer it, one bodyguard said. Answer it, another replied. Hannah looked at Kang Tae-sung. The old man stared at the screen. Then nodded. Answer. Her hands trembled. Slowly, she accepted the call. Hello. Silence. For 2 seconds, there was nothing. Then a familiar voice whispered. Hannah. Her entire body froze. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. No. It couldn't be. Her eyes widened. Tears instantly filled them. Because she knew that voice. She would know it anywhere. Min-jun. The room went silent. Every person stared at her. The voice continued. Hannah, listen carefully. Her breathing became uneven. Oh my God. Hannah. His voice sounded urgent. Desperate. Like someone running out of time. Listen to me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Where are you? I don't have much time. Min-jun. The pain in her voice was heartbreaking. Where are you? Several seconds passed. Then he answered. And his answer made no sense. I'm closer than you think. The line crackled. Static filled the call. Hannah pressed the phone harder against her ear. What happened to you? Silence. Then she heard something. A sound. A metallic sound. A familiar metallic sound. the exact same sound echoing through the walls around them. Her blood ran cold. Because suddenly she realized something. The sound wasn't coming through the phone. It was coming from nearby. Very nearby. Then Minjun spoke again. Hannah. His voice was barely a whisper now. Get away from my father. The room froze. Kang Taesung's face changed instantly. Shock. Pure shock. Then came the final sentence. The sentence that turned Hannah's entire world upside down. He's the reason they're hunting our baby. The call disconnected. At that exact moment, a deafening explosion ripped through the corridor outside. The door shook violently. The lights flickered. Several bodyguards stumbled. And on the security monitor, the smiling man stepped through a cloud of smoke. Because the door protecting them had just been blown open. The blast knocked Hannah off her feet. She crashed into a chair as dust filled the room. Several bodyguards immediately raised their weapons. The lights flickered again. For a few terrifying seconds, nobody could see clearly. All Hannah could hear were alarms. Shouting. Running footsteps. And one sentence repeating inside her head. He's the reason they're hunting our baby. Minjun's voice. Minjun's warning. Her heart pounded violently. She looked toward Kang Taesung. The old man was staring at the destroyed doorway. His expression unreadable. Was Minjun telling the truth? Had she been trusting the wrong person all along? Or was someone manipulating her? She didn't know anymore. Nothing made sense. The dust slowly began to settle. One of the bodyguards rushed toward the broken entrance. Chairman. What? They're coming. The fear in the man's voice was unmistakable. Kang Taesung immediately stepped in front of Hannah. The movement surprised her. If Minjun's warning was true, why would he protect her? Unless he was protecting the baby. Not her. The thought made her stomach twist. The first attacker appeared through the smoke. Then another. Then another. The narrow corridor outside was suddenly filled with armed men. The room exploded into chaos. Gunfire erupted. Bodyguards fired. The attackers returned fire. Hannah screamed and ducked behind a desk. The sound was deafening. Glass shattered. Furniture splintered. People shouted orders. For several terrifying moments, all she could do was cover her head and pray. A hand suddenly grabbed her shoulder. She nearly screamed. It was one of the bodyguards. We need to move. What? Now. Another burst of gunfire interrupted him. The man pulled her up. Move. This time she didn't argue. Fear had completely taken over. The bodyguards formed a protective circle around her. Kang Taesung moved with them. The group rushed through another secured exit at the back of the room. A hidden corridor. Narrow. Dark. Clearly designed for emergencies. Hannah stumbled as she tried to keep up. Her pregnancy was making everything harder. Every step felt heavier. Every breath felt shorter. Behind them, the sounds of fighting continued. Loud. Violent. Relentless. Where are we going? No one answered. The group kept moving. The hidden corridor stretched deeper beneath the airport. Several turns. Several staircases. Several security doors. Whoever designed this route had planned for situations exactly like this. That realization didn't comfort Hannah. It terrified her. Because it meant Kang Taesung lived a life where escapes like this were necessary. Eventually, they reached a large underground parking area. Dozens of luxury vehicles sat waiting. Engines already running. The bodyguards rushed toward one black SUV. Get inside. Hannah hesitated. Minjun's warning echoed inside her head again. Get away from my father. Her eyes moved toward Kang Taesung. The old man noticed immediately. You don't trust me. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Hannah remained silent. The old man nodded slowly. I understand. The answer surprised her. No anger. No threats. No argument. Just understanding. For some reason, that made everything more confusing. A bodyguard opened the SUV door. We don't have time. Hannah looked back toward the tunnel. She could still hear distant gunfire. Still hear shouting. The attackers were coming. Fast. Her options were running out. Finally, she climbed into the vehicle. The door slammed shut. Moments later, the convoy sped away. Nobody spoke during the first few minutes. The tension inside the SUV was overwhelming. Hannah sat in silence, watching the city pass by through the tinted windows. Her thoughts were racing. Minjun was alive. Or at least she believed he was. Someone was hunting her baby. And now she didn't know who to trust. The old man sitting across from her. or the voice on the phone. Both couldn't be telling the truth. One of them was lying. The question was which one. Eventually, Kang Tae-sung broke the silence. What exactly did Min-jun say? Hannah looked away. The old man sighed. I need to know. No. His eyebrows narrowed. No. You heard enough. The old man remained silent. Then nodded. Fair enough. Again, no anger. No threats. Just acceptance. That bothered Hannah. Because villains weren't supposed to act like this. Villains were supposed to be obvious. Easy to identify. Easy to hate. Nothing about this situation was easy anymore. Suddenly, another vehicle appeared behind them. One of the bodyguards immediately noticed. Chairman. The old man looked through the rear window. His expression darkened. They found us. Fear swept through the vehicle instantly. The driver accelerated. The engine roared. Traffic blurred outside. Hannah grabbed her seat. What now? No one answered. Another SUV joined the pursuit. Then another. Then another. The convoy was growing. Fast. The bodyguards exchanged worried looks. One of them pulled out a tablet. Tracking systems. Maps. Camera feeds. The situation was clearly serious. Very serious. The driver turned sharply. Several vehicles behind them followed. They're not backing off. Kang Tae-sung nodded grimly. They won't. Hannah stared at him. Who are they? The old man looked out the window. Then answered. People who believe your child belongs to them. The sentence sent chills through her body. What does that even mean? No answer. Again. Always secrets. Always half-truths. The frustration was becoming unbearable. Then something happened that changed everything. One of the bodyguards received a message. His face immediately turned pale. Chairman. The old man looked up. What? The bodyguard swallowed. Then handed over the phone. Kang Tae-sung read the message. His face lost all color. For the first time, genuine panic appeared. Not concern. Not worry. Panic. Hannah's stomach tightened. What is it? The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he read the message again, as if hoping it would somehow change. It didn't. Finally, he looked up. His eyes filled with disbelief. No. The word escaped quietly, almost helplessly. What happened? Hannah demanded. The old man looked at her. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. Then he finally whispered. They found him. The SUV became silent. Hannah's heart nearly stopped. What? The old man swallowed. They found Min-jun. Hope exploded inside her chest. Where is he? Nobody answered. Her excitement immediately faded. Because the expressions around her were wrong. Very wrong. Nobody looked relieved. Nobody looked happy. They looked horrified. Fear gripped her heart. Where is he? The old man closed his eyes. A pained expression crossed his face. Then he handed her the phone. Slowly. Reluctantly. Hannah looked down. A photograph filled the screen. The moment she saw it, her entire body froze. No. The phone nearly slipped from her fingers. No. It was Min-jun. There was no doubt. His face. His clothes. His watch. Everything. He was lying unconscious on the ground. Surrounded by armed men. The timestamp showed the image had been taken less than 10 minutes ago. Fresh. Recent. Real. A message sat beneath the photograph. One sentence. Simple. Cold. Terrifying. We have the father. Now we want the child. Hannah couldn't breathe. Her eyes remained locked on the photograph. The image blurred as tears filled her eyes. No. The whisper escaped before she could stop it. The SUV remained silent. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew how to comfort her. Because there was nothing comforting about what they were looking at. Min-jun was alive. That should have been good news. It should have been the miracle she had prayed for every night. The answer to months of pain. Months of questions. Months of heartbreak. Instead, it felt like a nightmare. Because someone had him. And judging from the message beneath the photograph, those people intended to use him. Use him to get to her. Use him to get to their child. Hannah's hands trembled. She zoomed into the image. Searching. Hoping. Desperately hoping. Maybe it was fake. Maybe it was edited. Maybe it wasn't really him. But every detail confirmed the truth. It was Min-jun. Very much alive. Very much in danger. Tears rolled down her cheeks. He's alive. Nobody answered. He's alive. This time her voice cracked. The reality was finally sinking in. 6 months. 6 entire months. 6 months believing he was gone. 6 months mourning someone who wasn't dead. 6 months carrying his child alone. The pain returned all at once. Stronger than before. She looked up at Kang Tae-sung. His face was pale. The old man looked as if he had aged 10 years in a matter of minutes. You knew? The question came quietly. The old man frowned. What? You knew he was alive? No. The answer came instantly. Too instantly. Hannah studied his face. Searching for deception. Searching for guilt. Searching for anything. All she found was shock. Raw shock. The kind that couldn't be faked. Then why? Why had Min-jun stayed away? Why hadn't he called? Why hadn't he come back? The questions hurt almost as much as the answers. A bodyguard suddenly leaned forward from the front seat. Chairman. What? We intercepted another message. The old man looked up. What does it say? The bodyguard hesitated. Clearly uncomfortable. Then he handed over a tablet. Kang Tae-sung read it. His expression darkened immediately. Hannah noticed. What is it? Silence. Kang Tae-sung. The old man finally looked at her. And for the first time, she saw fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. Fear for the baby. The realization unsettled her. Then he handed her the tablet. Slowly. Reluctantly. Hannah looked down. A video file. No sender. No identification. No explanation. Just a video. Her heart pounded. Play it. The old man didn't object. Hannah pressed play. The screen flickered. Then an image appeared. A dark room. Concrete walls. A single hanging light. And a chair. The camera quality wasn't great. But it didn't need to be. Because she recognized the person tied to the chair instantly. Min-jun. Fresh tears filled her eyes. He looked exhausted. Bruised. Tired. But alive. The sight shattered her. For several seconds, Min-jun remained silent. Then he slowly lifted his head. And looked directly into the camera. Hannah. Her chest tightened immediately. The sound of her name coming from his lips after 6 months nearly broke her. I don't know if you'll see this. His voice sounded weak. Painfully weak. But if you do. He paused. As though gathering strength. I'm sorry. The words hit harder than she expected. Her vision blurred. I should have told you the truth. Silence filled the SUV. Everyone watched. Nobody interrupted. Min-jun swallowed. Then continued. The day I disappeared. He looked away briefly. The day I left you. Pain flashed across his face. I was trying to protect you. Hannah closed her eyes. Those words sounded familiar. Too familiar. Everyone seemed to be protecting her. Yet somehow her life kept getting worse. The video continued. There were things I couldn't explain. His breathing sounded uneven. There were things I didn't fully understand myself. Hannah leaned closer. Desperate. Needing answers. Needing something. Anything. Then Min-jun said something that made everyone inside the vehicle freeze. My father isn't the enemy. Silence. Total silence. Hannah's eyes widened. Across from her, Kang Tae-sung looked genuinely stunned. As though he hadn't expected those words either. Min-jun continued. If you're with him. Another pause. Stay with him. The old man's eyes filled with emotion. The kind fathers try hard to hide. But not hard enough. Not this time. Hannah noticed. And for the first time, she wondered if she had misjudged him. Just a little. Then Min-jun's expression changed. The sadness vanished. Replaced by urgency. Fear. Real fear. Hannah listened carefully. Her heart pounded faster. The people chasing our child. He stopped. His jaw tightened. They don't work for one family. Confusion spread across Hannah's face. What did that mean? Then Min-jun answered. They work for many. Nobody spoke. The SUV felt impossibly quiet. As long as those families were fighting each other, our child was safe. Hannah frowned. Safe? How could any of this be safe? Then Min-jun delivered another shocking statement. But now they've formed an alliance. A chill spread through the vehicle. Even the bodyguards looked uneasy. Clearly they understood something she didn't. The video continued. And if they succeed, Min-jun looked directly into the camera. They'll control everything. Hannah felt more confused than ever. Control what? Power? Money? Influence? Nothing made sense. Then the screen suddenly shook. A loud noise echoed somewhere off camera. Minjun immediately turned. Someone had entered the room. His eyes widened. Fear flashed across his face. Then he looked back at the camera. Quickly. Desperately. As though running out of time. Hannah. His voice cracked. The emotion in that single word nearly broke her. If anything happens to me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. No. She whispered the word instinctively. No. Minjun continued. Promise me you'll protect our child. The video cut off. Just like that. Gone. The screen turned black. The silence inside the SUV became unbearable. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound was Hannah crying softly. For several minutes, she couldn't stop. 6 months of pain. 6 months of confusion. 6 months of grief. All crashing into her at once. Eventually, she wiped her eyes. Then looked directly at Kang Tae-sung. The old man met her gaze. Neither spoke. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Two people connected by the same man. Two people who had both lost him. Or almost lost him. Then Hannah finally broke the silence. We have to find him. The old man's jaw tightened. We will. No. She shook her head. We have to find him now. One of the bodyguards immediately turned around. Chairman. The old man already knew what was coming. We can't. Hannah frowned. What? The bodyguard pointed toward the windshield. Everyone looked forward. And Hannah's blood ran cold. The highway ahead was completely blocked. At least 15 black vehicles stretched across the road, creating an impenetrable barrier. The convoy came to an abrupt stop. Brakes screamed. Tires skidded. Several bodyguards cursed. Then the doors of the waiting vehicles began opening. One by one, dozens of armed men stepped out. Some carrying rifles. Others carrying military-grade equipment. Far more than anyone expected. Far more than anyone could fight. The driver swallowed hard. Chairman. Nobody answered. Because everyone could see the same thing. This wasn't an ambush. This was an army. And at the center of that army stood a woman. Tall. Elegant. Dangerously calm. She removed her sunglasses. Then smiled directly at Hannah. A smile that somehow felt worse than a threat. The bodyguards immediately recognized her. Fear spread through the convoy. One guard whispered a name. And the moment Kang Tae-sung heard it, his face lost all color. Because the one person he feared most had finally arrived. The highway became silent. No engines. No shouting. No gunfire. Just tension. Heavy. Suffocating tension. Hannah looked from face to face inside the SUV. Every bodyguard seemed frozen. Every one of them. The reaction immediately caught her attention. These were men who had faced armed attackers inside an airport. Men who worked for one of Korea's most feared crime bosses. Yet now they looked terrified. Not worried. Terrified. Her eyes shifted toward Kang Tae-sung. The old man's expression had hardened into stone. But she noticed it. The slight tightening of his jaw. The faint tremble in his hand. Fear. Real fear. The woman standing outside wasn't ordinary. Not even close. Who is she? Nobody answered. The woman began walking toward the convoy. Slow. Confident. Unhurried. As if she already owned the road. As if she already knew how this would end. The armed men behind her remained perfectly still. Disciplined. Organized. Dangerous. Finally, one of the bodyguards whispered. Chairman, what do we do? The old man kept his eyes on the approaching woman. Then he quietly answered. We listen. The response shocked everyone. Even Hannah. Listen? That wasn't the response of a man preparing for battle. That was the response of a man trying to survive one. The woman stopped a few feet from the SUV. Then she smiled. A calm, elegant smile. The kind that somehow felt more threatening than anger. One of her men stepped forward and opened the rear door. Nobody stopped him. Nobody even tried. The woman slowly leaned inside. Her gaze immediately found Hannah. And stayed there. For several uncomfortable seconds. She wasn't looking at Kang Tae-sung. She wasn't looking at the bodyguards. She was looking only at Hannah. Then her eyes moved lower. To Hannah's stomach. The smile widened. There you are. A chill ran through Hannah's body. The woman spoke as if she had been searching for her. For a long time. The stranger finally looked at Kang Tae-sung. You've caused me quite a headache. The old man didn't smile. You should have stayed away. The woman laughed softly. You know that's impossible. The conversation felt strange. Too familiar. Like two people who had known each other for years. Maybe decades. Then the woman turned back toward Hannah. Her eyes softened slightly. Hannah. The fact that she knew her name made Hannah uneasy. Who are you? The woman smiled. A fair question. She straightened. Then extended her hand. My name is Seo Yunyung. The name clearly meant something. Several bodyguards looked away immediately. Others became even more nervous. Hannah noticed everything. Should I know who that is? The woman laughed. A genuine laugh. I suppose not. Then her smile disappeared. But your child certainly will. The word sent a shiver through Hannah. Again. Always the child. Always the baby. Never her. Never Minjun. Always the baby. The obsession was becoming frightening. What do you want? The woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the sky, as if recalling something. Then she sighed. I want to stop history from repeating itself. Confusion crossed Hannah's face. What does that mean? The woman looked at Kang Taesung, then spoke. It means your child was born into a war that started long before you arrived in Korea. Silence. It means your child inherited something extremely valuable. More silence. And it means many people are willing to kill for it. Hannah's stomach tightened. The word sounded familiar. Everyone seemed to be saying the same thing. Yet nobody was explaining anything. What exactly did my baby inherit? The woman smiled sadly. That's the question, isn't it? Kang Taesung finally stepped forward. Enough. The woman's expression changed instantly. The friendliness vanished. Completely. We are far beyond enough. The temperature between them seemed to drop. Years of history. Years of resentment. Years of unfinished business. Hannah could practically feel it. The woman folded her arms. You should have told her months ago. The old man remained silent. You always do this. Still silence. You hide things. The accusation sounded personal. Very personal. Then the woman looked to Hannah. Did he tell you about Minjun's mother? The question landed like a bomb. Kang Taesung immediately reacted. No. The sharpness of his voice surprised everyone, including Hannah. The woman noticed too, and smiled. Interesting. Very interesting. Hannah's pulse quickened. What about his mother? The old man's face darkened. Not now. The woman laughed. Not now. She shook her head. That's exactly why we're here. The tension exploded. For the first time, Hannah felt as if she was standing near the center of the mystery. Finally. After months of confusion. After months of secrets. She was close. Very close. What happened to her? Nobody answered immediately. The woman stared directly at Kang Taesung, almost challenging him, daring him. For several seconds, neither looked away. Then Kang Taesung closed his eyes. The reaction alone told Hannah everything. Whatever happened was bad. Very bad. The woman spoke softly. She died. Hannah froze. The old man's face remained expressionless. But his silence confirmed it. Minjun's mother was dead. What happened? The woman answered before anyone else could. She was murdered. The air seemed to leave Hannah's lungs. What? The woman nodded. Murdered. Silence consumed the highway. Even the bodyguards looked uncomfortable, as if discussing the subject was dangerous. The old man finally spoke. Stop. The woman ignored him. Do you know why she was murdered? Hannah shook her head slowly. No. The woman pointed toward Hannah's stomach. Because she carried a child. The words hit like a hammer. Hannah's blood turned cold. No. No. That couldn't be what she meant. The woman continued. The same reason people are hunting you. A terrifying realization began forming. Slowly. Piece by piece. Like a puzzle finally coming together. Minjun's mother. Pregnant. Targeted. Murdered. And now Hannah. Pregnant. Targeted. Hunted. Her hands instinctively moved to her stomach. Fear unlike anything she had ever known gripped her heart. The woman noticed. And nodded sadly. Now you're beginning to understand. The old man looked away. Ashamed. Guilty. Broken. Hannah stared at him. What happened? Her voice shook. What really happened? The old man remained silent. The woman answered. He failed to protect her. The accusation hung heavily in the air. Nobody disputed it. Nobody corrected it. Which somehow made it worse. The old man's silence was a confession. And Hannah could see the pain in his eyes. The kind of pain that never leaves. The kind that follows people for decades. Then the woman sighed. As much as I enjoy this conversation. Her eyes shifted toward the convoy. We have a bigger problem. Every bodyguard immediately became alert. What? One of the woman's men handed her a tablet. She looked at the screen. And for the first time since arriving, her smile disappeared. Completely. The change was immediate. And terrifying. Because powerful people only lose their composure when something truly serious happens. The woman slowly handed the tablet to Kang Tae-sung. The old man read it. Then his face turned pale. What is it? Hannah demanded. Nobody answered. Tell me. Still silence. Her frustration exploded. What now? Finally, Kang Tae-sung handed her the tablet. Hannah looked down. No. Then the camera zoomed closer. Toward the burning building. Toward the wreckage. Toward a giant message spray-painted across a damaged wall. A message visible to every camera. Every police officer. Every person watching the news. 5 simple words. The air belongs to US. The air belongs to us. Hannah stared at the screen. The words felt unreal. Like something from a nightmare. A nightmare she couldn't wake up from. The news broadcast continued in the background. Reporters shouting. Sirens blaring. Smoke rising into the sky. But Hannah barely heard any of it. Her attention remained fixed on the burning building. The place where Min-jun was supposed to be. The place that might have just become his grave. Again. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. No. The word escaped softly. The old wound inside her chest ripped open. 6 months ago she had lost him. Now she might be losing him all over again. No. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. She couldn't do this again. She couldn't survive this again. Not after finally learning he was alive. Not after hearing his voice. Not after seeing his face. The tablet slipped slightly in her hands. Then a hand gently steadied it. Kang Tae-sung. The old man's expression was grim. But there was something else there too. Determination. Don't assume he's dead. Hannah looked at him. How can I not? The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the burning building on the screen. Then he spoke quietly. My son has survived worse. The statement sounded strange. Almost impossible. Worse than this? What kind of life had Min-jun been living? Before Hannah could ask, Seo Yun-young suddenly stepped forward. He's right. Everyone looked at her. The woman folded her arms. If Min-jun was inside that building, he knew it was compromised. Hannah frowned. What does that mean? It means he would have prepared. Hope flickered weakly inside her. Tiny. Fragile. Dangerous. But it was there. Then one of Seo Yun-young's men rushed toward her. The urgency on his face was obvious. Madam. What? The man handed her a phone. I think you need to see this. The woman took the device. Looked at the screen. And immediately froze. The reaction caught everyone's attention. What happened? Kang Tae-sung asked. The woman didn't answer. For the first time since Hannah had met her, she looked genuinely shocked. The phone slowly lowered. Then she laughed. Once. A short, disbelieving laugh. No way. The old man stepped closer. What? The woman turned the screen toward him. The moment he saw it, his eyes widened. A reaction almost identical to hers. Hannah's heart started racing. What is it? Nobody answered. The silence became unbearable. Finally, Hannah snatched the phone herself. And froze. A photograph filled the screen. Recent. Very recent. The timestamp showed it had been taken less than 2 minutes ago. The image quality wasn't perfect. But it didn't need to be. Because the person in the photograph was unmistakable. Min-jun. Alive. Standing beside a motorcycle. Covered in dust. Covered in blood. But alive. Very much alive. A sob escaped Hannah's lips. Relief hit her so hard it almost hurt. Her knees felt weak. For a moment she couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. He was alive. Again. Then she noticed something else. Someone else. A second figure stood beside Min-jun. Partially hidden. Face obscured. Yet oddly familiar. Hannah zoomed in. Her heart skipped. No. That wasn't possible. She zoomed further. The blurry face became clearer. And her entire body froze. Because the person standing beside Min-jun looked exactly like Kang Tae-sung. Only younger. Much younger. What? The word barely escaped. Everyone noticed her expression. What is it? Seo Yunyung asked. Hannah slowly held up the screen. Silence followed. Long silence. Then one of the bodyguards whispered. Impossible. Another shook his head. No. Kong Tae-sung's face had gone completely pale. The old man stared at the image as if he'd seen a ghost. Because maybe he had. Hannah looked at him. Who is that? Nobody answered. Who is he? The old man's hand trembled slightly. Then he whispered a name. A name nobody expected. Kong Juneseo. The highway fell silent. Seo Yunyung looked stunned. Actually stunned. A reaction Hannah hadn't thought possible. No. The woman shook her head. That's impossible. Apparently she knew the name too. Hannah looked between them. Who is Kong Juneseo? Nobody answered immediately. The tension became unbearable. Finally Seo Yunyung spoke. He was supposed to be dead. A chill ran through Hannah. Dead. Another dead person. Another ghost. Another secret. The list never seemed to end. The woman continued. He disappeared 27 years ago. Hannah frowned. 27 years? Then why did he look so young in the photograph? Questions piled on top of questions. The old man stared at the image. His eyes filled with emotion. Pain. Regret. Disbelief. All at once. Then Hannah asked the question nobody else seemed willing to ask. Who was he? The answer came quietly. Almost too quietly. My brother. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Hannah felt her heart pound. Brother? Kong Tae-sung had a brother? A brother everyone believed was dead? The revelation hit like a truck. Because suddenly a dozen things began falling into place. Family secrets. Hidden wars. Inherited power. Bloodlines. This mystery was much bigger than she imagined. Much bigger. Then another thought struck her. One so obvious she couldn't believe she'd missed it. She looked at Kong Tae-sung. Then at the photo. Then back at him. If that's your brother. Her voice trembled. The old man already knew where she was going. His expression darkened. If he's alive. Silence. Then Hannah whispered. Does that mean my baby isn't the only heir? Nobody answered. And that silence told her everything. A realization swept through the convoy. The baby wasn't the entire story. Not even close. There was another branch of the family. Another claimant. Another bloodline. One everyone thought had vanished decades ago. Suddenly the obsession surrounding her child made more sense. Not complete sense, but more. Then Seo Yunyung cursed under her breath. A first. A clear sign things were getting worse. What now? Hannah asked. The woman looked at her. Then at the photograph. Then back at her. The game just changed. A cold feeling settled in Hannah's stomach. What does that mean? The answer came from Kong Tae-sung. His voice heavy. Defeated. Dangerously serious. It means the people hunting your child aren't the only ones looking for an heir anymore. Nobody spoke. The old man looked toward the horizon, as if seeing something nobody else could. Then he delivered another bombshell. And if Juneseo is really alive. He paused. His eyes filled with dread. Then he knows the truth about what happened the night Min-jun's mother was killed. The words hit Hannah like lightning. Everything stopped. Her pulse. Her thoughts. Her breathing. Because suddenly nothing else mattered. Not the fortune. Not the heir. Not the war. Only one thing. The truth. The truth everyone kept hiding. The truth that seemed connected to everything. Min-jun. The baby. The murder. The hunt. All of it. Hannah stared at Kong Tae-sung. What happened that night? For the first time all day. The old man looked afraid to answer. What happened that night? Hannah's voice cut through the silence. Nobody looked away. Nobody interrupted. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt close to the truth. Close enough to touch it. And judging by the look on Kong Tae-sung's face, he knew it too. The old man stared at the road for several seconds. His jaw tightened. Then loosened. As though he were fighting a battle inside his own head. Finally he spoke. Her name was Yuna. The words came quietly. Almost tenderly. Hannah frowned. Min-jun's mother? The old man nodded. A distant sadness filled his eyes. She was kind. Nobody spoke. Too kind for the world we lived in. His voice sounded different now. Not like a mafia boss. Not like a feared leader. Just a man remembering someone he had lost. Seo Yunyung remained silent. Listening. Waiting. The bodyguards did the same. Because clearly they had never heard the full story either. Kang Tae-sung continued. When Yuna became pregnant, everything changed. Hannah's stomach tightened. Again. Pregnancy. Everything always came back to pregnancy. To unborn children. To bloodlines. To heirs. The old man looked toward Hannah. You think people started hunting your baby recently? He slowly shook his head. They didn't. A chill crawled through her body. They've been hunting that bloodline for nearly 30 years. The highway seemed quieter. Even the wind felt still. The old man continued. At first, we thought we could protect her. His eyes lowered. We were wrong. Pain flashed across his face. Real pain. The kind that never fades. The kind people carry to their graves. Then he whispered. They found her. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The old man's voice became heavier. She was 7 months pregnant. Hannah instinctively placed both hands over her stomach. Fear spread through her chest. 7 months. The image was horrifying. The old man swallowed hard. I wasn't there. The guilt in his voice was obvious. I should have been. Silence. I was too late. Hannah felt her throat tighten. No matter what she thought of him, this clearly haunted him. Then he looked directly at her. The people who killed her weren't supposed to leave witnesses. The statement hung in the air. Slowly. Dangerously. Then Hannah frowned. Witnesses. The old man nodded. One person survived. Her heart skipped. Seo Yeon-young suddenly looked away, as if she already knew the answer. Then Kang Tae-sung said the name. My brother. The realization hit Hannah instantly. Kang Jun-seo. The supposedly dead brother. The man standing beside Min-jun in the photograph. The man who knew the truth. Everything was beginning to connect. Piece by piece. Then another thought struck her. A terrifying one. If he survived. She hesitated. The old man nodded. Already understanding. Then he knows who ordered the attack. The convoy became silent. Nobody spoke. Because everyone understood the importance of that statement. The entire mystery might come down to one man. One witness. One survivor. Then Hannah asked the obvious question. Who ordered it? The old man closed his eyes. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he answered. I don't know. The response shocked her. What? I don't know. The frustration exploded inside her. How can you not know? His eyes opened again. Filled with shame. Because everyone involved died. Everyone? The old man nodded. Or so we thought. The emphasis on those last words wasn't accidental. Now there was Jun Seo. Alive. Hidden. Missing for 27 years. And somehow standing beside Min-jun. The puzzle was changing shape again. Then Seo Yeon-young suddenly spoke. He's lying. Every head turned toward her. Kang Tae-sung's expression hardened instantly. What? The woman folded her arms. You know more than you're saying. The tension immediately returned. Hannah watched carefully. Because unlike everyone else, Seo Yeon-young wasn't afraid of him. Not even slightly. The woman stepped closer. Tell her. The old man remained silent. Tell her what happened after the murder. Nothing. Tell her who disappeared. Still nothing. Hannah's pulse quickened. There was more. Of course there was more. There was always more. Finally she looked directly at Kang Tae-sung. What is she talking about? The old man's face darkened. For a moment Hannah thought he might refuse again. But then something unexpected happened. He laughed. Not because anything was funny. The opposite. The laugh sounded exhausted. Defeated. Like a man tired of carrying the same burden. Then he finally answered. Min-jun wasn't the first child. The world seemed to stop. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Hannah stared at him. Certain she had misheard. What? The old man's eyes lowered. Yuna was pregnant before. The words hit like a bomb. Silence consumed the convoy. Even Seo Yeon-young looked uneasy now. As though this revelation carried enormous weight. Hannah's heart pounded violently. Before Min-jun? The old man nodded. Yes. Confusion flooded her mind. Another child? Another pregnancy? Nobody had ever mentioned this. Not once. Then a horrifying possibility formed. What happened? The old man looked away. His answer came almost as a whisper. The baby disappeared. A chill swept through the convoy. No. 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 This story was becoming darker by the second. The baby disappeared? The old man nodded slowly. We never found him. Him. Not it. Him. A boy. A missing child. Hannah's mind raced. How? Why? Who? Questions attacked from every direction. Then Seo Yunyung delivered another devastating revelation. Not everyone believes he died. Silence. The old man looked furious. But he didn't deny it. That alone was enough. Because silence had become its own answer. Hannah stared between them. You're saying there could be another heir? Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The answer was obvious. Yes, there could be. And suddenly everything made sense. The obsession. The alliances. The murders. The hunt. Maybe everyone wasn't searching for one heir. Maybe they were searching for two. Then Hannah remembered the photograph. The one showing Minjun beside Junseo. Her eyes widened. No, surely not. Her pulse accelerated. Then she whispered the thought. The missing child. Everyone looked at her. Her voice trembled. What if Junseo found him? The silence that followed was deafening. Because nobody had considered it. Or perhaps they had. And were too afraid to say it aloud. Then one of the bodyguards' phones rang. The sudden sound made everyone jump. The man looked at the screen. His eyes widened. Chairman. What? The guard swallowed. Then handed over the device. Kong Tae-sung looked down. Immediately froze. Fear crossed his face. Not concern. Not worry. Fear. Hannah's stomach tightened. What is it now? The old man slowly turned the phone toward her. A video was playing. Live video. Not recorded. Live. The camera showed an abandoned warehouse. Dark. Industrial. Remote. Then the image shifted. And Hannah's heart nearly stopped. Minjun appeared on the screen. Alive. Again. Breathing heavily. Looking directly into the camera. But this time he wasn't tied up. He wasn't injured. He wasn't a prisoner. He was standing. Free. Beside him stood Kong Junseo. The mysterious brother. The supposed ghost. The missing witness. Both men stared into the camera. Then Minjun spoke. Hannah. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. His voice sounded urgent. Desperate. As though time was running out. Again. Hannah, listen carefully. Nobody in the convoy moved. Nobody even blinked. Then Minjun delivered the sentence that changed everything. The people hunting our child finally know where the first heir is. The world seemed to stop. And before anyone could react, a third man stepped into the frame. The moment Hannah saw his face, every hair on her body stood up. Because the man looked exactly like Minjun. The convoy fell into stunned silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Nobody even seemed to breathe. The video continued playing on the phone screen. And the man standing beside Minjun remained in view. Hannah stared at him. Unable to look away. The resemblance was unbelievable. The same eyes. The same jawline. The same height. Even the way he stood felt familiar. If she had passed him on the street, she would have sworn he was Minjun. Yet she knew he wasn't. He couldn't be. Minjun was already standing there. Alive. Right beside him. What is this? The whisper escaped Hannah's lips. Nobody answered. Because nobody seemed capable of answering. Kong Tae-sung looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Again. The old man's face had gone completely pale. His hands trembled slightly. A detail Hannah would never have noticed a few days ago. But now she noticed everything. The man on the screen slowly stepped forward. His eyes fixed on the camera. Then fixed on Hannah. Almost as if he knew she was watching. A strange feeling settled in her stomach. Something about him felt familiar. Not personally familiar. Emotionally familiar. As though she had heard about him before. Without realizing it. Then Kong Junseo finally spoke. His voice sounded calm. Measured. Dangerously calm. Hannah. The use of her name immediately made her uneasy. There are things you deserve to know. Nobody inside the convoy interrupted. Nobody dared. Junseo looked toward the man standing beside him. Then back at the camera. The child who disappeared 28 years ago. Silence. The tension became unbearable. Then he finished the sentence. Never died. A chill swept through everyone. Even Seo Yunyung looked shaken. The statement landed like an earthquake. Because if it was true, everything changed. Everything. Hannah's pulse raced. The missing child. The lost heir. The mystery that had haunted everyone for decades. Alive. Alive all this time. Then Minjun stepped forward. His face was serious. Far more serious than Hannah had ever seen. Hannah. She instinctively moved closer to the screen. as though he could somehow see her, as though the distance between them didn't exist. I need you to listen carefully. Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded even though he couldn't see her. Minjun continued. My father isn't telling you everything. Across from Hannah, Kang Taesung closed his eyes. Not in anger. In resignation. As though he already knew this moment was coming. Then Minjun delivered another blow. The war didn't start because of power. Confusion spread through Hannah's mind. What? Every explanation she had heard pointed toward power. Money. Influence. Control. Minjun shook his head. No. His expression hardened. It started because of betrayal. The word echoed in Hannah's mind. Betrayal. Someone betrayed someone. And apparently people were still dying because of it decades later. Jun Seo stepped forward again. His eyes locked onto the camera. Then onto Hannah. Your child isn't being hunted because of wealth. Another contradiction. Another secret. Another truth hidden beneath another truth. Then Jun Seo continued. Your child is being hunted because of what the bloodline represents. Nobody in the convoy moved. The tension was overwhelming. What does that mean? Hannah whispered. Of course they couldn't hear her. But somehow it felt like they could. Then Jun Seo answered anyway. The founders of the alliance made a promise. Silence. A promise that was broken. His voice grew colder. People died because of that broken promise. The man beside him remained silent. Watching. Waiting. Then Hannah noticed something. The third man. The one who looked like Minjun. He hadn't spoken once. Not once. Yet everyone seemed to revolve around him. Even Minjun. Even Jun Seo. Almost as though he were the center of everything. The realization unsettled her. Then suddenly the man stepped forward. For the first time. The convoy became silent. Even the bodyguards seemed nervous. The stranger looked directly into the camera. And spoke. My name is Kang Ji-ho. The name meant nothing to Hannah. But not to everyone else. Kang Taesung visibly flinched. Seo Yunyung looked away. Several bodyguards lowered their heads. Clearly the name mattered. A lot. Ji-ho continued. I've spent 28 years hiding. Silence. 28 years running. More silence. 28 years wondering why people wanted me dead. The statement hit hard. Because Hannah finally understood. This was him. The missing child. The lost heir. The baby who disappeared. The entire mystery suddenly came into focus. Not perfectly. But enough. Kang Ji-ho was the child everyone thought died. And now he had returned. Returned at the exact moment Hannah's baby entered the picture. Then Ji-ho said something that made Hannah's blood run cold. They found me 6 months ago. Her eyes widened. 6 months. The exact same period Minjun disappeared. No. No. That couldn't be a coincidence. Minjun continued the explanation. When they found Ji-ho, his voice became heavier. They realized the bloodline survived. Hannah felt her stomach tighten. Then Minjun looked directly into the camera. And that's when they started hunting our child. The realization hit her like a truck. Not before. After. Everything started 6 months ago. Not years ago. Not decades ago. 6 months. The exact moment Ji-ho was discovered. The exact moment Minjun vanished. The exact moment her nightmare began. Piece by piece. Everything connected. Then Ji-ho spoke again. There are people who believe only one heir should exist. A chill spread through the convoy. Only one heir. Not multiple. One. Hannah suddenly understood where this was going. And she didn't like it. Not one bit. Ji-ho continued. They believe eliminating the others will end the conflict. No one spoke. No one needed to. The implication was horrifying. If there were multiple heirs, someone wanted to reduce that number. Violently. Then Minjun looked straight into the camera again. Hannah. His voice cracked slightly. The emotion immediately caught her attention. If anything happens to me. No. The word escaped her lips instantly. No. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Again. She couldn't hear him say those words again. Not after everything. But Minjun continued. You need to protect the baby. Fresh tears blurred her vision. Then his next words shattered her. Because our child may be the last heir left. The convoy froze. Every single person. Even Kang Taesung. Even Seo Yunyung. Everyone. Because that sentence changed everything. How? Why? Ji-ho was alive. Minjun was alive. How could the baby be the last heir? The question hung unanswered. Then suddenly alarms began blaring in the background of the video. All three men turned. Their expressions changed instantly. Danger. Immediate danger. Minjun looked back at the camera. Fast. Urgent. Hannah, they're here. The screen shook. Someone shouted off camera. Then gunfire erupted. The video feed became chaotic. People running. Yelling. The camera tilted sideways. For several terrifying seconds, nobody could tell what was happening. Then Hannah heard Minjun shout something. One sentence. One desperate sentence. Find the ledger. The video cut off. Gone. Black screen. Silence. The convoy remained frozen. Nobody understood. The ledger? Hannah whispered. What ledger? Nobody answered. Then something unexpected happened. Seo Yeonyung slowly sat down. A woman who had seemed invincible all day suddenly looked exhausted. Almost defeated. The reaction immediately caught Hannah's attention. What is it? The woman stared ahead. Silent. Then she laughed bitterly. A short laugh. A hopeless laugh. Finally she answered. If they're looking for the ledger. She paused. Her face losing all color. Then she whispered the words that made everyone in the convoy realize the true danger they were facing. They already know who betrayed the family. They already know who betrayed the family. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Terrifying. Final. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Hannah stared at Seo Yeonyung. What does that mean? The woman looked exhausted. As though she had spent years hoping this day would never come. The ledger. Her voice was quiet now. Almost fragile. It contains everything. Hannah frowned. Everything? Kang Tae-sung slowly nodded. The old man looked defeated. Not weak. Not broken. Just tired. Tired of running from the same truth. The alliance. Silence. The money. More silence. The betrayals. Nobody moved. The murders. A chill swept through the convoy. Then Hannah finally understood. The ledger wasn't about wealth. It wasn't about power. It was evidence. Evidence of everything. Evidence somebody had spent decades hiding. And now people were killing to find it. Or destroy it. Then another realization hit her. Her eyes widened. The person who betrayed the family. She looked around. That's why everyone is panicking. Nobody answered. Nobody denied it. The silence spoke loudly enough. Hannah's pulse accelerated. Because suddenly another question appeared. The most important question. Who was it? The convoy became quiet again. Kang Tae-sung closed his eyes. Seo Yeonyung looked away. The bodyguards avoided eye contact. The answer was obvious. They all knew. Every one of them. Then Hannah slowly turned toward Kang Tae-sung. The old man's expression shattered her. Because she saw it. The guilt. The shame. The regret. The truth. No. The word escaped her lips. No. The old man lowered his head. And in that moment Hannah knew. Not all the details. Not the entire story. But enough. Enough to understand. You. The question sounded almost like a plea. A plea for him to say no. A plea for him to deny it. A plea for him to prove her wrong. Instead, Kang Tae-sung whispered. Yes. The world seemed to stop. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Hannah felt as though the air had been ripped from her lungs. No. Fresh tears filled her eyes. No. The old man nodded slowly. I betrayed them. The confession shattered decades of secrets. Just like that. The truth. Finally. Painfully. The old man's voice trembled. A first. A genuine first. I thought I was saving my family. Nobody interrupted. I thought I was preventing a war. Silence. I was wrong. The shame in his voice was overwhelming. The kind of shame that had clearly followed him for years. Then he continued. The information I gave them led to Yuna. Hannah's heart sank. No. 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 The attack. His voice cracked. They found her because of me. Tears rolled down his face. Actual tears. The feared mafia boss crying openly. Not for himself. For what he had done. For the consequences. For the innocent woman who died. For the unborn child who disappeared. For the son who spent his life hating him. The old man looked older now. Much older. As though speaking the truth had finally broken something inside him. I never meant for her to die. Nobody spoke. Because intentions didn't matter anymore. The damage had already been done. Decades ago. Then Hannah remembered Minjun. Everything suddenly came rushing back. Minjun knows. Kang Tae-sung nodded. Yes. The answer was immediate. Painful. Certain. That's why he left. Silence. That's why he disappeared. The old man nodded again. He found evidence. Everything clicked into place. The distance. The disappearance. The secrecy. The 6 months. Min-jun had learned the truth. And it had destroyed him. Just like it was destroying Hannah now. Then Seo Yun-young suddenly sat forward. Wait. Everyone looked at her. The woman frowned. Something had occurred to her. Something important. What? Seo Yun-young looked directly at Kang Tae-sung. Then at Hannah. Then back at Kang Tae-sung. Her expression changed. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. No. The word escaped her slowly. What? Hannah asked. The woman stood up abruptly. No. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. The reaction immediately alarmed everyone. What is it? Seo Yun-young looked at Hannah. Then at Hannah's stomach. Then she whispered. The baby. Fear gripped Hannah's chest. What about the baby? The woman turned toward Kang Tae-sung. You idiot. The old man frowned. What are you talking about? Then Seo Yun-young delivered the final revelation. The one nobody had seen coming. The one that changed everything. The child isn't being hunted because it's an heir. Silence. Nobody understood. What? The woman pointed at Hannah. Then at her stomach. They've all been looking at the wrong generation. The convoy became completely still. Even the wind outside seemed to disappear. Then the woman looked directly at Hannah. Her voice barely above a whisper. The real heir isn't your child. Hannah froze. Her heart pounded. What? Seo Yun-young's eyes filled with disbelief. As though she couldn't believe she had missed it. Then she said the words that changed everything. It's you. The world stopped. Hannah stared at her. Unable to process what she had heard. What? The woman nodded. Slowly. Carefully. As though speaking the truth aloud made it real. The missing child. Silence. The baby that disappeared 28 years ago. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Seo Yun-young's eyes never left Hannah. Hannah. The woman's voice trembled. You are the child everyone has been searching for. The convoy exploded into stunned silence. Hannah felt dizzy. No. Impossible. Impossible. She shook her head immediately. No. But nobody corrected the woman. Nobody argued. Nobody denied it. And that terrified her. Because they believed it. Every one of them. Then Kang Tae-sung slowly sat down. The old man looked completely defeated. Like a man watching the final piece of a puzzle fall into place. His eyes filled with tears. Hannah. She stared at him. Unable to speak. Unable to think. The old man swallowed hard. Then whispered. I suspected years ago. Her blood ran cold. Years. Years? You knew? The pain in her voice was heartbreaking. I wasn't certain. But you knew? The old man lowered his head. The silence was answer enough. Fresh tears streamed down Hannah's face. Everything she believed about herself. Everything. Gone. Then another thought hit her. A devastating thought. She looked toward the black screen where Min-jun's video had ended. Her voice shook. Min-jun knew too. Nobody answered. Again. The silence told her everything. The tears came harder. Because suddenly she understood. Min-jun hadn't fallen in love with an ordinary woman. He had fallen in love with the missing heir. The child everyone believed was dead. The center of a war that started before either of them were born. And despite knowing all of that, he chose her. He loved her anyway. Then Hannah laughed. A small laugh. Through tears. Through heartbreak. Through shock. Because after everything, after the lies, after the betrayals, after the deaths, after the secrets, one thing remained simple. One thing remained true. She loved him too. A phone suddenly rang. Everyone froze. The sound echoed through the convoy. One of the bodyguards looked down. Then immediately stood up. His eyes widened. Chairman. Nobody moved. The guard swallowed. Then smiled. For the first time all day. A genuine smile. What is it? Hannah asked. The bodyguard looked directly at her. Then answered. Min-jun. Her heart stopped. The guard nodded. Emotion filling his voice. We found him. Tears instantly filled Hannah's eyes. Relief. Pure relief. The kind that steals your breath away. The kind that makes everything else disappear. For the first time in 6 months. For the first time since this nightmare began, hope felt real. And somewhere beyond the chaos, beyond the war, beyond the secrets, beyond the betrayals, the future was finally waiting for them. A future Hannah intended to fight for. A future she intended to protect. For herself. For Minjun. For their child. And for the truth that had finally come into the light. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, at what point did you suspect Hannah was the missing heir? And would you have forgiven Kong Tae-sung after learning the truth? Your comments help the channel grow and inspire more Afro-Korean stories like this one.